Well, hello once again for the third time. Welcome to FRAVR, to the third talk now. It's halftime here at FRAVR. We have heard two talks by hands-on people working directly in the industry. Now it's time to hear from academics. We're very privileged to have with us two leading academics in the field, no less hands-on, but of course providing a different perspective. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Professor Frank Gabler and Professor Tilmann Kohlhaase, lecturers at the University of Applied Science in Darmstadt. The floor is yours.
So, thank you very much for the warm introduction and for having us here, that we have the chance to talk a bit about our work at our university. Oh, this was this feedback you told me. That's a better place. Okay, so. Well, actually, the talk was announced with the question beyond the fourth wall. So, can mixed realities or expanded realities be taught? This for us is the starting point because I think it's a crucial question. Yeah? If you want to develop interesting applications in future, so we have to think about how to train people in doing proper applications. So, therefore, I would like to start with a brief look into the future. Yeah? Brief look into the future means not 10 years, not 15 years, not 20 years, so just, let's say, 3 to 5 years, not that far away. So let's think about what could be expanded realities in 3 years or 5 years. For sure, I think we can assume that technology might develop. So right now we have very clumsy headsets and augmented reality devices. And this will definitely change in future. So I'm pretty sure we will have lightweight, cheaper, and maybe nearly invisible devices, most probably not much larger than my glasses here, with full with computing power and devices to do augmented mixed reality, or what we say expanded realities. So maybe it will look like this. This is a study from a design company to illustrate how this device could look like. Or maybe they are even smaller. It's like this. Yeah? And this is not a mock-up. This is a company that's already existing. So this kind of technology is at hand, or at least in development. So things will change, for sure. So the device will be much more powerful, lighter, nicer, cleaner, I don't know. Hopefully also cheaper. Yeah. And another thing I would take as a requisition for this is maybe these, just for buzzwording, quantum computers, which means high performance computing, not necessarily quantum computers. Let's talk about high performance computers. Big data and deep learning and also artificial intelligence will foster this whole development and to accelerate the whole development of expanded realities. I think this is quite important because if we think about devices we heard today, like in the beginning in the talks, like HoloLens and devices like that, which maybe are much faster than HoloLens and with a higher resolution, much more capable of doing interesting things, we have to understand that if you want to do a full integrated mixed reality, those devices need to understand the environment. So it's not just pure tracking to find a position, it's also to understand it, which means visual semantics. So that the device knows, okay, this is a table. I can use a table for putting something on top of it, or a chair, or whatever is in your surroundings. Yeah? So the system needs to understand. This is important that you can fully integrate your computer-generated assets into the real world in a way that they really coexist with each other, so there's a real interaction between the two worlds. Yeah? So let's take this. Yeah? So this as a brief look into the future, and I think it's at hand. It's not that's 10 years ago or away. Sorry, we are pretty close to these technologies. So if we assume this, so how could these new devices influence our daily life? I think that's a crucial question. So we had this, I think all of you have your smartphones at hand, and you know what you can do with these devices. 10 years ago, this was impossible. So I think we are somewhere at the edge that mixed realities could replace devices like smartphones in the future. So let's do a journey. So I like to do personas. So let's have a look at Linda and at John. So Linda is an engineer. So she's working in electronics, is busy with electronics at a company. And look at John, 42, who is a medical doctor, surgeon. Okay, so how could this day of these two people start? Yeah? So your alarm clock is ringing, you get awake, so maybe still in bed, you check first your news channel with these devices. Yeah? So make a brief check about the traffics, so because you have commuting to work or whatever. So, or John is making a video call to his mother, so you can do this with these devices, I'm pretty sure you can. And okay, after they did this and had their breakfast, they might start traveling to work. So maybe Linda is trying to take a train is late, so it's asking for maybe a self-driving car or a smart cab, whatever. And John is taking his car, and during the driving to work, he already used this device for assisted driving. So it has glasses, so augmented reality, at least augmented, maybe mixed reality, for navigation, for smart driving. Yeah. And Linda, maybe she's waiting for the train, or she's in this self-driving car. She's already starting working. Yeah? So she's studying maybe layouts. She has to discuss with colleagues later and study plans and so on. So it's already working. Or maybe she already have a meeting, a virtual meeting with your colleagues in car, yeah? In this virtual environment. Okay, then if they are at work, so maybe Linda already starts with a status report, and they might have a virtual meeting with their colleagues to start discussing layouts and construction plans. And maybe John is preparing a surgery, so he's planning how to do this, and maybe he will also call colleagues and do preparations in VR or expanded realities. Maybe later, during the surgery, he's controlling a medical robot for doing the surgery via a virtual headset or virtual glasses, and maybe he's calling a colleague in overseas for advice. So. And maybe at lunch, after they did the first half of their work, so maybe Linda gets access to social media and complain about the meal. Or John already starts shopping, asking for groceries in a virtual shop, or meeting with his real estate manager because he's looking for a new flat. Everything is possible. So it's everything included in these new devices. And later, maybe John, because he's also a teacher at the university, has an hour lecture, virtual lecture with students, talking about physiology. Or Linda is meeting with colleagues discussing new plans or updating status, or already does some simulations of new stuff and things. So working will definitely be influenced a lot by these new devices. It's not just about entertainment and media. It's also, I think, every position, every job you can think of is somehow influenced by these new devices in a couple of years. I'm pretty sure about that. So maybe later they have a meeting at a restaurant or with friends discussing a last soccer game, and they watch the replay of it on the table, so we augment the play there on the table and have a look at it, discuss it vividly. Or have assistant driving again back home, or whatever. Maybe you meet with your family later for cooking. You have a recipe in VR or in mixed reality, or watching a film or having a game together with your children in VR. So everything will be possible with these new devices. Even ordering a cab later for going clubbing. So I think how this looks like is pretty clear. Yeah? So this is a video from Magic Leap, what we have already seen today in the morning lecture, morning presentation. HoloLens how this could look like if you have real mixed reality applications in future. So there's a seamless integration into your environment. That's not like you are used to today. So it will be really included in your daily life, in your environment, and so that you can interact with this stuff naturally. So you should ask yourself, in what you're doing right now in your job, how could this new device influence your daily life? And I'm pretty sure you'll find several things where you can hook on with these devices to find new ways of approaching your daily work or your activities beyond work. So our thesis is, that expanded realities will do a huge jump from being just another media thing where you can see films and games or whatever, to something very unique, so something special with own laws, with own rules, and own design languages. And I think it's a good way to understand these demands we might have in future to this field if you look into some possible applications. And therefore, I would like to hand over the first part to my colleague.
Yeah, also welcome from my side. As we identified a lot of things and you can do and the potential of expanded realities, we also, of course, we need some people, some craftsmen, some artists, some designers, some programmers, some technicians to do all that. Yeah? And the question is, do we think, or we think actually as University of Applied Science in Darmstadt, that we are a good place to do that? And we will try to give you some ideas why, and also why this idea developed out of our roots we are carrying. Yeah, it's actually that our school, we have different programs since around 2000, which really are taking place at the interface, at the interconnection between technology and design, because that's actually what drives the whole digital media area. And we actually think for animation, game, and motion pictures are more closely related to 360, to VR, to AR than the others, but also the others are taking place and also kind of giving us a chance to build up on this basic, to do a lot of stuff. Yeah, we've also did a lot of our graduates are now in the so-called VR industry. Yeah, so we have a lot of graduates who are also Pixelmondo and giving talks as VR conference and so on. So that's actually why we also think that it's a good place to start with. Yeah. Especially in the program of animation and game, we see two things are already together, and that's actually where also for virtual reality actually everything started and took place. Yeah. In a way, we didn't force the students to say, okay, you have to do a VR project. It's just we had the technology there and was demand of the students in our project-based work and project-based learning that we do a project and do it in VR. So that really started to their first steps in X realities or virtual reality quite, let's say, maybe naively, just in the beginning. Nobody, which was 2 years ago, so there were no conferences like this now. It was just the first start and first things to begin. And interesting enough, actually, the students started to begin really quite, in a quite simple way. What can we do? What are our constraints? Yeah, so we are constrained, we can't move and so on. And so actually what they did, because we can't move, actually our main character is sitting on the toilet. Yeah, so what just simple ideas they developed, and starting with these very simple ideas, very intuitively, they developed here, it's one example of an VR experience, which was VR Flash, and that really worked really nice. Yeah? Which an interesting thing is they didn't thought much about it, they just did it, and it worked out. Yeah? And then actually they started to learn, and they made their next project. Yeah, which was a sunny afternoon. They did a more analytic approach, thought a lot more about the concept, planned a lot more, thought a lot more, okay, can they take this and that from what I already know? Yeah, and also said, okay, how I can work with dialogue in VR. Yeah, so it actually became a very conceptual work, but in the end, the first one worked better. So, yeah, from this experience, we started the takeaway was actually we have to rethink our whole process, our whole approach to this medium because it's different. Yeah. And also through all the work we developed through the last years, one of the takeaways is that also the developed skills grow up, yeah, and also the ideas felt grown up, and they start using VR or AR, whatever, using it and not being used by it anymore, which is quite interesting. Yeah, so actually they try to take the methods and principles from game design and so on. Yeah? And looking at stuff on the professional level, it's a question for us, because we have the starting point, what to take from what you know. Yeah? And that actually sometimes works nice and works, and sometimes not, as we've seen. Yeah? But we know actually we have to think about what will work and what not. Yeah? And it's here just one example. I don't know, anybody played Skyrim VR yet? Yeah? And it's a really, I haven't played it, but what you read about it, it's really crappy. Yeah? Because this game was done for a screen, and so on, and you just can't take it and put it in VR and expect it to be great. Yeah? Okay, so leaving the real world. Yeah. It's sometimes, yeah, what I like a lot is this, I think most of you know that, but that's something what we also think, that's important. We need a known approach to the stuff we're doing, yeah, because if you just have a hammer, actually you will fail in the end. Yeah. So we came up and think about some design principles for X-realities, you know, which could be derived, of course, from game design, filmmaking, theater, evolution, neuroscience, and much more. Yeah, so more or less everything will play a huge role in the program we are aiming for. Yeah. What is important also that we had this nice talk from Ms. Kamke. Actually, she said actually there's not, storytelling has to be rethought. Yeah, and for my approach, the more I see and look at projects with VR and coach the students this way, I feel that storytelling might be the wrong word. Yeah? It's more that this kind of what I like is kind of an experience crafting or something like that. Because story always includes, or storytelling includes a teller and somebody who hears at the story and listens. Yeah? But it's more or less what the storyteller or the inventor or the VR maker is doing is more giving guidance to a user, to the player, to the experiencer, than controlling what he's doing. And I think that needs a totally different mindset. Yeah. And that's actually, we came up with some ideas. So what we have to learn about is experience crafting. We have to think about multi-perspectivity, because actually in experience, we want to meet other people. Yeah? And to see a lot of VR games now are multiplayer ones. Yeah? We can think about multiple storylines. Yeah? And that's all the stuff we have to learn when we go about that. Yeah? Of course, everything's interactive. Yeah? You see actually a big advantage when working with VR, when using the hand controllers, that you can really interact with the so-called virtual reality in a way. Yeah? One thing is, of course, what I like a lot, if you say, okay, we had all the time in filmmaking, everybody said, show, don't tell. Everybody knows that. And I think we have to go a step ahead and say, experience, don't show. Yeah? Guide, don't control. Yeah? And that's about it, and that's a little bit what we think are the new rules we have to teach and that have to be part of our program. Yeah. All this stuff leading to what is so-called immersion, which could talk about 3 or 4 hours just about immersion and what it's about. Yeah, and it's here what you see, it's about agency, presence. Collaboration, I think, is a really huge one in mixed and expanded realities there, and you have to design behavior and so on and so on. Yeah. It's a way, actually, sometimes, actually, we have also constraints, but we have to be aware and have to overcome them in a way and give as much freedom to the player, to the experiencer as possible. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. The upside, as we've seen actually now, what is happening, we are all VR pioneers, so we actually can, there's not so much set on the field, so we're quite free to experiment, to do research and so on. Yeah, we can develop behind other mediums. Yeah. Maybe the downside is a little bit that we are really sometimes in a deep uncanny valley, because the more realistic, the more real everything gets, the more it gets uncanny. Yeah. And it might also that people might say, okay, will expanded realities become a substitute for reality? Yeah. So you think that that's also kind of responsible for whole social issues, which will also be part of the program which we have to take away. Okay, and now actually the next part is again Frank.
So we heard already that all the things we've learned in how to make games might not be valid anymore, or we have to apply to this new form of media, which is still a challenge. Yeah? So if you start with conventional ideas, you might fail. And it's even more true if you think about filmmaking in VR. And I think most of you might have experiences with 360-degree video, I guess. Huh? Who had it already? Hands up. 360? Who liked it? Oh, yeah, some. Okay, because I think most of you made the experience that, okay, you put on the glasses and, okay, I'm here, I can look around, so I can turn my head in every direction, but I'm nailed down to the position of my camera. I cannot move, I'm a ghost, I cannot interact, yeah, so no way. And after a while, you might be disappointed, yeah? In the best case, disappointed. Okay, so it's a challenge. For filmmakers, definitely it's a challenge. If you're coming from traditional filmmaking, you have to learn a lot of things because several of these old, well, not old, still valid rules for filmmaking are not working anymore. So you have problems with how to place the camera, so how to move the camera. It's about how to place the action, yes, because we have 360-degree, there's no framing anymore, yeah, and filmmakers love it to have control. Yeah, you want to control every single frame. It's gone, forget it, it's not working anymore. Depth of field is not working, and so on, and so on, and so on. So there are many things you have to learn if you want to do film in 360, if it's possible at all, so it's something we should discuss. And it's getting even worse if you, because I told you, yeah, in 360 video you are nailed down. You have 3 degrees of freedom, which is not that much. So let's assume we can do videos or films in more than 3 degrees, so 6 degrees of freedom, so full interaction, full movement. You can do this already. You can use techniques like photogrammetry. This is a static form for using real scenes, real environments, real people to rebuild them in a CGI environment in 3D. And then you can walk around, so you can walk around in the scene. One way is photogrammetry, and we have one example. Oh, okay, it's much better than on this television. So this was made by photogrammetry and with animations, the mixture of the two. And you can walk around in the scenery, and it looks amazingly real. Yeah? So, but nevertheless, that's not the last word, because technology is going on. And there are devices like this one here from Lightro. This is a light field camera system, which the principle is more or less the same with some chain details within. But what you do is you scan the whole scenery within your field of view, and you have the full 3D information. So you can do filming in 3D. So if you have an actor or whatever acting in a scene, you can come close to him, you can walk around or look to the left, the right, because we still have occlusion, so it's just from one perspective. Another system from Intel was shown at CES this year. It's a combination of a 360-degree rig combined with a LiDAR scanner, with very fast LiDAR scanner, by the way. So it's 3 gigabytes per frame data. It's not, you have to handle this. Yeah, it's not so easy. And I think that's the biggest problem with light field and with 360 volumetric video today. But for the filmmakers, for the skills, for the filmmakers, it's even worse. Yeah? So you lose control of the framing, now you lose control of the position. You know, they can walk around in your scene. How to control it, how to do storytelling in such an environment. It's a big question. So we have to learn. And we try a lot, we try to understand, but we are still at the beginning. My opinion, my personal. So if you just take filmmaking, how filmmaking could be in future with these new devices and these new possibilities, what is the skill set? So for sure you need to know how to make films, how films are working. But even much more than that. Yeah, this is about storytelling, world building, experience design, because I think Mrs. Kampke put it very right in her talk. It's away from the hero's journey, it's more the user journey which becomes interesting. It's about the user, not about the viewer anymore. You are in there and you have to take this into account. So 3D sound design, all the things, all the cognitive studies, yeah, how do perception work and psychology working in these environments. So these are the skill sets which are needed for the future of within these new environments. So.
Yeah, okay, to go on, actually, you might remember our journey in the beginning. So actually one of our protagonists was medicine. Yeah, and I just want to give you a few examples actually where also this expanded realities goes, and it's not just gaming, it's not just movies and so on, but it plays a huge role also in research and in medicine. Yeah, as you see a few examples here, actually cancer cells are built, so actually you can look at it from all sides to see actually how to develop something against it. Or if you do an operation, you can look under the skin, yeah, with the glasses and see what is happening below, which is really interesting. Yeah, on the other side, actually, there's also a big research going on, also big use of virtual reality in pain distraction, yeah, as you all might know, and it really measures that actually when you have glasses, yeah, this is one example for people who are burned, yeah, if they are operated and they have the glasses on and look at this snowman stuff here, actually they feel less pain, yeah, and that's really proven. It's not just, yeah, it helps more than any pills and any medicine you can take. Yeah. And so that's really also using virtual therapy, might also in psychology and so on. There's a lot of research going on where you can use it, yeah, which is quite interesting. But one thing you can also see here, okay, come to the skills later, but keep that in mind that special skills are also needed to work together with medicines and also to create immersion. Yeah, as you see here with a snowman, it's a very rough and a very abstract stuff here. If you get more real, actually people get more immersed, and I would bet actually that the therapy and the pain reduction would be even more. Yeah. Another area which is quite in the forensic area, where things are built, and actually you see one example of Auschwitz, where they actually proved in a process actually that one of the guys could see what happened there, and that actually made it possible for the staff there actually to say, okay, you're guilty or not because you could see it. That will also play a role in when the crime happened and you have kind of a VR representation of crimes, and you can later go in and look from where the shot came and so on and so on. So there are a lot of things actually where also this new realities play a huge role, and that also has to be designed and to be used and to set up. Yeah. What I myself like a lot is that also using VR in a working environment. Yeah, what you can see here is that actually we have a collaborative workspace. On one side you can collaborate, as you see here, the holodeck from NVIDIA, and on the other side there are a lot of tools where you can really work and prototype in virtual reality. Today I had to talk with one of the students, and they make a project. Interesting wise, it's kind of a Kafka, so surreality in virtual reality. And they're actually, they come from their traditional workflow and go to Maya and set up their set. And I said, why don't you go directly into VR and check out how that really impresses you when you walk around and do the modeling there? No, we need this 1 centimeter, it has to be exact and so on. Yeah? It's kind of crazy, but you see already there you have to kind of come up with a new mindset and also to use VR not just as a medium at the end that you have, but also in the whole process. You know, there are a lot of tools like Tilt Brush, or what I also like a lot is NMVR, which you can do really animation in VR and just draw animation frame by frame in virtual reality, which is really crazy what you can do. Yeah, see a few of the programs here, and also all of the game engines now like Unreal and Unity. They have a VR editor, which is really getting better and better. Yeah, so you can directly stand there, can change the distance to objects, and can see how they actually perceive them. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Yeah? On the other hand, actually, we have a lot like artistry that's happening and emotion here. So few examples here from the Angelica, yeah, which is more the drawing stuff and also drawing experience. Yeah, we have the Carnegie Arena, which was in Cannes, I think last year, which also kind of a VR experience. You're a refugee and has to go through the desert in Mexico and the sand on the ground, so actually just can recreate it here. And we have this Draw Me Close, which also was mentioned before in the other talk, and yeah, which is really interesting because you also not only have the perception of the visual stuff, you see it below, which is quite abstract, but on the other hand, you experience the persistence of being touched and being in touch with real people in that moment. And so for art and emotion and to find out in an artistic way how reality works. Because now actually I think with the new expanded realities, we won't have just one reality. There are a lot of other realities. You know, we have also, I think that can actually enhance our lives and our understanding of the real reality. Yeah. Okay. And of course, social spaces to meet other people in VR. Yeah, a lot of people actually saying, okay, I don't like virtual reality, I don't like expanded reality because everybody has a glass in front of his eyes and you can't communicate anymore. But it will be also a chance to communicate, and a lot of multiplayer games you see here actually are built like together and to play together in a different reality. Yeah. Yeah, of course, architecture is a big place where to use that, which comes into mind in the first place. So experiencing spaces before they even are built, and also experience houses, skyscrapers, or even your home before actually you buy your furniture. Yeah? So actually the skills we came up with that is actually, as I said already, it's this openness to other things, to communication. Right? It's understanding how social media is working. It's an understanding for fast prototyping, the whole 3D stuff. Of course, it's very near sometimes to art, theater, and acting. Yeah? Even if you do something not in an artistic way, but more actually in a user way, it's a good way to know how this persistent is working. Yeah? Research and so on, spatial design, and of course the observation of reality, that's something which is important, what you can draw from reality. Okay, so.
Yeah, okay. So, well, actually, we are here at the FRAVR, so it's mainly about games, but as I said before, all these expanded realities may play a role in our whole daily life. So also, if you think about possible applications in the industry, like logistics, simulation, and manufacturing. So if you look into the future, or if you look into the future right now, again, it's not so far away because everything is already there and is already used. So, you know, Internet of Things plays a major role right now. Industry 4.0 is on the way, so digitalization. And the technologies are melting together. Yeah? So they're coming together for new applications, like here. Yeah? So you have a mixed reality application. If the engineer walks around, he can see the parameters of this machine, he can control the machine, see the status of the production process, or if there are any failures or so. You know? So all the maintenance and control of these factories will change a lot within the next years. And so the whole production chain will be influenced by these devices. It's much easier. If you can walk around, you don't need devices to measure something. You just look at the machine and you get the important values immediately. And this is also mixed reality, and we have to build applications for this. Or here, this is a typical maintenance application. Yeah? So you walk around, you have your glasses, maybe something is broken. You don't have to be an expert anymore in repairing this specific machine. You just call an expert, or establish a connection, I would say, not call, to the expert. And you will get advice in mixed reality. Maybe it's already included in argumentation to show you which part of the machine is broken, how to replace it. So you got the instructions online. So you just follow what is told during these devices. So it's not needed anymore to have a deep training on every detail of the machine. You can do it online. This is especially important. Think about aerospace or space engineering. Yeah? So remote operating processes. This also plays a major role. Logistics, we're already there. So for picking stuff, doing sorting processes and setting up the whole delivery chain, this will play an important role. And I think this will be one of the first branches in our industry which will be affected by this in technologies or by these developments. And already DHL is testing with Google Glasses applications, so it's already there. And for sure simulations, because setup in a simulation in virtual reality is safe. So you can do a lot of things, you can test it before you try it in real. And I think this is pretty obvious. But the interesting thing is, if we, right now, as my colleague already said, you're somehow encapsulated, you're within your glasses. But if you think about high performance virtual or mixed reality applications with these new devices, you can really, in your environment, work together with colleagues. You see your colleague, you can interact with this computer-generated thing. You can run simulations, mechanics, electronics, whatever, in the place. And I think this is a big step. This is a big advantage which comes up there. But if you want to develop applications for this, because we are somehow content providers, there are many things you have to know if you develop things like that. So it's about research and scientific work process for sure. Also innovation edge technologies, cognitive science, how to do things, and hardware interfacing, sensoring, to deal with actors, with artificial intelligence, and so on and so on. The list is pretty long. So, but experience design, again, as always, if we deal with these devices, we have to deal with experience design, and so on. Many, many, many things you should know. Education. Yeah, so you know we have to change the way we teach. So, and we will change in future. I'm pretty sure we will. So, museums are fighting for visitors. Yeah, they're looking for new ways. And I found yesterday one thing from Tate Modern. So, for Modigliani, they used or set it up a VR environment. So they used photos, existing photos of this of his studio, rebuild it in VR. And so people can enter the studio and can experience the way he worked and also about his paintings. So you learn a lot about his time period also, which is important for arts. One thing, or application we are working with is, recently I have a project in Jerusalem, in the old city of Jerusalem running. So it's an excavation site right in the center of the old city. And there you can see about 4,000 years of history of Jerusalem. But no one knows, because what you see there is stones and dirt. Yeah? You don't understand what you see. So and that's a big problem. So they approached us if we can do something new. And we are developing new ways of conveying the information with traditional techniques like projection mapping, but also with augmented reality, mixed reality to tell story. Yeah? So we tell 4,000 years history of Jerusalem within this excavation site. This is our plan. We're still working on it. So I think for places like this to convey history or cultural heritage aspects, it's a very, very powerful tool. And maybe in future, if you think about teaching in schools, we have in each school VR classes or VR rooms or experience rooms where you can go with your scholars, can go to the pyramids or to the moon to experience physics there, or even back in time, because as my colleague said, there is no fixed reality there. Many, many realities are possible, and they might follow their own rules. So maybe this is also a future for these new technologies or for the new applications we might do for that. This is also brand new. I found also yesterday. This is something Walmart prepared their people with VR for the Black Friday, for difficult situations during the Black Friday. I find this is very interesting. Yeah? So to make them familiar with what they will be approached with. Yeah? So, okay, marketing for sure. Yeah, I think Pixelmondo already told us in the morning hour. Especially B2B market will be very interesting for mixed reality applications. Yeah? Or I found a number that about 80% of all B2B sales will be made by 2020. So 80%, yeah, so of those sales will be made with assistance of mixed reality applications. But also the consumer, yeah? Okay, we like mental models. So this is a simple application, so you might have a virtual shopping mall, whatever, and go there. But I think not necessarily it will look like a real shopping mall. Maybe something completely different, yeah? So also if you think back, the first shopping sites in internet 20 years ago also tried this, but they also developed something different. So as I said, yeah, so business to business will also be a very interesting place for this new stuff. And again, if you look at the skill set which is necessary to set up these applications, yeah, you need creative strategies. You have to think about real-time rendering, education, generalist aspects, ambient sound for sure, 3D sound, producing, management, marketing, all these things play a major role if you think about applications like this. So you have to be an expert with a wide horizon. So, but if I look at a number of possible applications in future for these mixed realities, or expanded realities, sorry, I think it will be nearly infinite. Yeah? Because it will really, in every single aspect of your life, it might have influence. Yeah? In near future, as I said, in 5 years, not 10 or 15, but 20. Yeah? So it will be much faster than we might think yet. I hope so. However, because we are from the university, we think, okay, if we want to do it right, we need a set of well-trained professionals in the market to do so. And right now, everyone tries by itself, so with his own background. If you're a filmmaker, you will try to apply filmmaking rules. If you're from game, you will try to apply game rules. Sometimes you fail, very often you fail, and you have to rethink things because it's not working anymore. So maybe we should start from the beginning. Maybe you should really take it as it is. Expanded realities is a type of media of its own, with own laws, with own rules. Maybe some of them we still have to develop to figure out. So this was also the starting point. And then we figured out, or tried to figure out, what are the necessary skills. And we developed something which is internally called STEAM. Yeah? So we tried to arrange all these aspects in groups. Yeah? So we figured out, okay, science is important because we want to do science, a lot of science in our new program. Technology, engineering, so you need computer science background, you need engineering background in electronics, so because you have to interface stuff. Arts, for sure, because you want to do content, not devices. Yeah, this is what this is about. And for sure, also marketing. Yeah, all the marketing aspects. You have experience in producing stuff. So this was our idea. So we tried to isolate all these necessary skills or group them in a way, and then we developed a program. And we developed a program for expanded realities, which might start soon. So it will be a bachelor program with 7 semesters. And you see already all these aspects are somehow in there. Yeah? So we have lectures about science, about methodologies, about arts and design aspects, technology for sure also. And it will be, like we are usually working at our university, project-based, which means not single lectures, yeah? But the students are working in groups together at problems, finding solutions, yeah, finding new ways of approaching things. And this plays a major role in our teaching. So this is our plan. So we think we need well-trained professionals to bring expanded realities on a new level, yeah, hopefully. And the study program will be 3.5 years. But it's not that we just do something like traditional lectures, because if we talk about expanded realities in VR, we also would like to do it in VR. Yeah? So we will set up virtual classrooms so that you can include lecturers from overseas for an hour, or if a student is at home, you can include them, but you're still working together, collaborative. And this is pretty important for us. So we use this new technology to develop new content for the new technology. So last word.
Okay. Yeah, as you've seen, actually, that's kind of a huge aim we have here. We've seen a lot of aspects are there, and we have to manage them. But we think it's worth, because actually, as you see, it will be part of our future, and it will be also a chance for young people to find interesting new jobs, and also to work and to design their future. We started around 2 years ago with the idea, and there was you might remember 2 years ago was a big hype with VR, which now changed a bit, but we actually think that's good that it changed, because that gives us on one side more time, and I think also it broadens the view on this expanded realities, what might be possible. Yeah, and that's actually want to start slow and then grow, otherwise than to start high and then actually get low here. So we have a last screen here which indicates that we try to start our program in autumn next year. So actually, who knows and who thinks, please apply now. And now we're open for questions here. Thank you.
But not only students, we're also looking for cooperation partners and so on.
Yeah, cooperation partners. And of course, actually, there are new professorships that will develop. So actually, a big chance of apply for everything. Come in contact with us, ask us, and so on. Okay, thanks again for attending.
Thank you.
Right, and as ever, we have about 15 minutes for questions. If there's anyone with an immediate question. If not, I would have one, in fact. When you train people in, I don't know, to be mechanics, I think it's very simple, because even though processes change, you know, a screwdriver is still a screwdriver. How do you account for the fact that the students you are you're teaching today, or you will be teaching soon, that are the next generation of professionals, they will work with completely different tools, and by that time, the tools for the end consumer and for the creator will be completely different. How do you account for that? It's
cool.
It's a difficult.
Yeah, basically, actually, that's what we're also doing already in the moment. So actually, we're building up people for motion pictures or animation game. We don't know what devices the games will be on. There are new stuff coming. So we try actually to teach the basic understanding and also try to teach them the methods to learn about new devices. Also, not only learn, but also to develop them themselves. Because I believe that we are not just learning and teaching to use that stuff, but we as a university, a place of research, are also kind of in the situation that we also design the future and design the stuff that is coming here. So it's kind of a back and forth. And that's also why we want to start this program now, because we don't want to run after, we will also lead in a way. And that's very important. And we know from our students, actually, now we don't teach software and stuff like that, because that also changes quite fast. Yeah. And that's also why we think more in an abstract way. That's also why we call it expanded realities and not virtual reality or whatever, because we don't know what might be the device of the future. Yeah, he doesn't like it so much, but I said everybody who don't know what we want to do is kind of something you know from Enterprise, which is the holodeck. Yeah, that might be in the end. Yeah. However that works, we don't know it yet. But that's the idea, and then we want to teach our students to build a holodeck, which any device ever.
Well, that's the ultimative goal in the end, for sure, yeah. But maybe even beyond that, I don't know. And we are not teaching tools. It's not that we train people on working with a specific tool. It's about competences. It's more what we are looking for, that they really develop a deep understanding of the problem and how you approach it. Yeah? And things like learning how to program, how to use game engines and stuff just comes along. Yeah, but this is just a tool to fulfill the vision you have in the at the starting point. Yeah. So, and that's the idea. Yeah. Then you can easily adapt to new technologies or new programs or languages or devices, whatever that might be in the future.
Great. Well, any questions from the audience?
Kind of.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was a lot in a short time. I have to digest it. We have to digest it, I think, and read about it. Yes. Just a minor remark. You spoke about the man in the beginning who wants to rent a flat, but I think he should buy a house if he's in such a position. He works at university, he's a doctor and so on, successful, and his wife, so they buy a house. Maybe it's a suggestion for a change. And then you rely so very much on the precision of measuring, of getting this data via this technology. Are you so sure about it? But for example, in other technologies, they also, for example, Siemens, they always recommend also to use traditional methods. For example, if it comes to collecting data and so on, they say, well, you can collect data using computers, PCs, and other in software and so on, but you should also have traditional files in case of failure and so on. What do you think about it? You are so sure about the precision of these things. And then what happens if this is replaced by another technology you don't know? It's maybe somewhere.
Yeah, okay. Well, actually, if you deal with modern devices, or especially high-end, on-the-edge devices, you always think about something which is called graceful degradation, which means there's this device becomes it's not working as you expected anymore, then it should still fulfill his basic needs. Yeah? A chair is still a chair. If it's smart or not, you can sit on it. Yeah? But maybe with the smart part, you can do more with it. You can measure your weight. So, but still you can sit on it. And with this mental model, you should approach new technologies. But nevertheless, if you want to deal with these new ways or new media forms, you have to be in a way optimistic. Yeah? Because otherwise it will be hard to develop a vision for these things. Nevertheless, these basic skill sets, like having some knowledge about math and stuff, you still need. And so the device will not replace it in a way. It will support you and maybe bring you to a higher level. But the basic stuff should be still there.
Yeah, but maybe also to look at the name of the program, which is expanded reality. So I believe, or I think that the idea of reality we have today will change, definitely. Yeah, we had that fake realities on a negative way in the last year. but actually experiencing new realities and have a perception like in real reality. I think that will actually develop, and that will also bring us other views on relationships, on the world. Yeah, we had a very interesting example. Again, I have to quotate Astrid Kanke again. Actually, they had this idea and this stuff where actually you start as a tree and you draw and you experience during this experience the whole life what happens to a tree from the beginning to the end. And I think that will change. It's an experience you do now in virtual reality, but it's an experience that you take to the normal reality. It takes to your how you actually relate to trees, to relate to the environment, and so on. Yeah, so I think there's a back and forth, and I think that reality, this one reality that we all grew up with. Okay, we are now quite old, but the young ones actually have already started to have new realities which they were socialized with. Yeah, but I think that will definitely change. So that will also change a lot, and I think that's where we need people to design that, to create that, to be have a responsibility in working with it and so on. And that's something that we think we have to take care of, and that should be the content of our program.
Right, any other questions? If not, then again, I have one. PricewaterhouseCoopers, the analysts, they estimated that this market, I suppose they mean expanded realities, is going to grow massively. I think by 2020 they estimate 5 billion, it to grow to a 5 billion market. But they see revenue. But they see the applications more verging towards movies. Now, from your presentation, it's quite clear that you have a firm eye on future technologies. Do you agree with that? Do you think we'll see more growth in movies with like Hollywood getting more and more interested, or do you think gaming is going to remain a core field for technologies like this?
I think on one side, gaming is one of the cores because gaming is kind of a technology driver. Yeah, I think this whole technology to get to this point, we have it so that it's really suitable and reasonable, usable. With the new Microsoft device, it's even easier. I think that's part of the game industry driving this development. Yeah. On the other hand, we think actually that's part of the market. Yeah, and it's also a market at the moment where nobody makes money with that. In VR gaming and VR movies and so on, it's so small. It's kind of a niche. What it's at the moment to earn money with is B2B stuff, yeah, or we do advertisement. Yeah, what I liked a lot is actually this I don't know if anybody did the VR experience from Coco, from this new Pixar movie. Yeah, and that's really great if you are standing on this place and it's open. It's like it's really, yeah, and that's actually that you have this experience and you go to the movie because it's so tempting to be in the space, which is so great. And I think in this area and also in the automobile industry and so on, they build stuff. I think there is a lot of money in the moment. Yeah, but in the future that will also show, and I don't think it's a movie or a game. It's part of them, but it's not what will bring it really to the front. Everybody's waiting now for this killer application and this killer game for VR, and I don't think it will come. It's a wrong question.
Yeah, I guess so. And also, if you just think about entertainment, is just a very small slice within this whole field of possible applications. And if you think or look at data, maybe from Statista, I found recently something, then you will see 2020 you will start earning money more with content than with hardware. Right now it's the other way around. You earn the money with hardware if you're a hardware producer. By 2020, roughly, don't name it down to this 2020, content will take over, and that's the big opportunity for us as content producers. And if you look carefully, you will figure out too that it's mainly mixed and augmented reality which will drive this development. So it's not just VR, this encapsulated world, it's more towards mixed reality applications. So there I see the big opportunities coming for us. And I think we should prepare for something like this.
I myself observe that in sort of the past 30 years, Hollywood and the video game industry have really failed to collaborate in general. But it seems to me that virtual reality particularly seems to open up sort of a new field where these two industries can finally work together, and projects like Transference from Elijah Wood's production company are perhaps a testament to that. Spielberg's opening sort of a new subsidiary interested in that. Ridley Scott is interested. Do you think that that's true, that particularly virtual reality is finally bringing video games and movies together?
Well, actually, if I start first, the process started years ago. So games and films are merging in a way, yeah. But you should think about, okay, if mixed realities or expanded realities is a new form of media, what do we want to do? We want to tell stories. If it's film or if it's game, I don't care. I care about the story. Yeah? And we have to find ways to tell these stories. And then, however you do it, yeah, I'm open. And maybe we have to understand it's not film, it's not game, it's expanded realities. Yeah, it's something different.
Yeah, that's basically it. But there's a convergence, of course, of film and games and so on, which all the people think. And I think from the cultural side, that it brings how we tell stories in both media, that's right. I think from the marketing side, actually, that's still different. Yeah, and that's also something we experience with our students. Yeah, so they started being kind of hardcore gamers who just want to do AAA games, and then we came up with this iPad stuff, this flat, small screen, and said, why I should do a game for that? Yeah. And still doing it. And now we have actually then accepted, okay, that might be a chance, but I want to still do my hardcore stuff. And why should I do VR? Yeah, a game in VR is boring for them. And I think there will also grew up a new generation of people growing up with that and also perceiving that in a different way, and also maybe seeing a game not just as a game, but as kind of a story and experience, a role that I can play, and a place I can visit. Here I can go to Mars, which is great. Yeah, when I would have been 6 years old and somebody would have offered me this glass and say, you can go to Mars. Yeah, just think back at what would be great for you. Yeah, and today they have it. Yeah, and it's kind of, so I think, okay, I can do it. Yeah, it's not that wow effect for them anymore, but it plays a role.
Right, we would have time for one more question, I think, or perhaps two.
So, because you were talking about education and teaching, and I think this is one of the most important sectors in my book. I think that you were talking about experiences, and as we know, all of us a bit older people, we were running to the library normally and reading up stuff, and maybe reading an article 4 or 5 times and then understanding it for the first time, and this process was very important. So do you think that those experiences will be standing for them alone, or is this just for you a field that then will be going into the other field of, let's say, classic learning or another learning, or do you see a possibility there? And the second question, which is going a bit in the same direction, is, of course, if you have something like VR, it's where we are a developed country here. Many people will have access to it. Many people in other countries might not. It might be a new gate that is happening for teaching and for learning. And do you think that in the future, is there a possibility to overcome stuff like this?
Good questions. So, okay, the first one was... okay, well, actually, I'm a transmedia guy. Yeah, so I think in transmedia. It's just not, I'm not focused to one media. And what do you do if you learn something today? Yeah, so you look into a book, but not only. You also, or many students of mine, go to YouTube and to a wiki and so on. They use many, many different channels. They use here, the most important thing, I guess, go to their colleagues and ask them, can you explain me? So it's also a way of convey information. So it's a mixture. This is how we learn. I can only recommend not to stick with one media channel for learning. And I think for expanded reality, it's the same. It's something with your experience, you maybe understand easier or faster complex things, whatever it might be. Politics, history, physics, mechanics, I don't know. Whatever the content might be. But I think it's always the mixture. It will not replace other things. This is my opinion, maybe my old school opinion. Maybe this might change, however. And the other question is very complicated. But actually, I can only be optimistic. Yeah? I hope for a better world, in a way. Yeah? But, and I think we as universities, we can try to use our influence to develop things in the right direction. Whatever is possible. And you know, the thing's not always going forward. Sometimes we also go backwards, and we have to see how things develop. But as a teacher, we try to make it public in a way, so you can think about, yeah. But the access to the technology is always a problem.
Yeah, it's pretty the same. What I would say, there are different learning types, and from students, what we experience all the day, and it's not don't take us wrong that we want no books anymore and so on. It's part of the process, and it's part of the experience again. Yeah, just reading, yeah, which is also an experience. It's also another form of reality. Yeah, when you read a book, you dive something so deep immersed that you know what is happening there. You see it in front of your eyes. So it's just an old device for expanded realities. Yeah, so totally okay. Yeah, and what was the second question?
How we can provide access to maybe.
Yeah, okay, maybe to talk about that. Actually, the devices will get cheaper on one side, and the other side, actually, we are also part of the VR First initiative from Crytek. Yeah, and they try also to provide places for people who are not students, who are not studying at a media school or whatever, to use these devices also to come up with VR and use it. Yeah, so it's also part, and I think also it will democratize the process even more. Yeah? And it's also possible for people or students in Africa to take maybe a cheap class and to join a lecture with us, for example, or vice versa. We can learn from them, yeah, using this kind of expanded realities. That will just broaden our range, what we can with it, what we can see, what we can hear, people we can communicate with, people we can relate to. It's really a big chance on one side. On the other side, of course, we don't know what the future will bring.
Well, I know what the future will bring, the last and fourth lecture today, but Professor Kohlhaase, Professor Gabler, thank you ever so much for this talk. Yeah.